Okay. I love that we're a small group, so that means there's a lot more room for discussions and all that stuff. How do I do this? Do I talk here? Do I look at y'all? All right. Hello, and welcome everybody to the Breakout Conference for Balancing Student Life and Ministry. Bruno's throwing chairs. Okay. Since we are a small group, I would like for us to go around and do like some small introductions, get to know each other. So, your name, where you're situated at. Are you at home? Are you present here? Your city. What else? What are some good ones? And assuming that you guys are all students, what grade you're in or like what school, and if you're in university, what are you studying? And then also your favorite subject. Yay! Let's start with Kyla.
Hello. Hi. So my name is Kyla, as was just said, but you can also call me Michaela or whatever you want to call me. Doesn't matter. I am currently situated in my home because it's raining and I'm not allowed to go to other enclosed spaces. And I'm in Calgary. I forgot for 1 second.
It's raining where you are?
It's
not raining here. Oh, wow.
I'm looking at it right now. I just finished last week my 4th year of school. Yay!
Wow!
And so I'm graduating this November. And my favorite subject was, past tense, because I'm done. Sorry. My favorite my favorite subject was interpersonal communications. And so, yeah.
And what college, university?
Mount Royal.
I graduated from there. Yeah! Yay! Awesome. Thanks, Kyla. Nice to meet you. Let's go, Jody.
Hello, I'm Jody. Okay, I am in grade 11, so I'm still in high school, and my favorite subject is math.
Wow, that's rare. Okay, Bruno.
Hi, my name is Bruno. I'm at church in Calgary, and I'm currently uneducated.
Why are you in this session?
Oh, because I'm going to school.
You are?
Yes.
Where?
In Bros.
Whoa! Everyone clapping.
I'm getting an associate's in ministry.
Oh!
And my favorite subject was gym. But now I just love revival history. And
wow.
Yes.
Congratulations. Oh. Okay. Thanks, Bruno. Shahans.
My name is Shahana Ligure. I am 19 years old. I just finished my I just finished my 2nd year of nursing at the University of Calgary. My favorite subject, grade 10 language arts.
Oh, same actually.
Yeah.
I loved LA.
50 You made it though. Yeah.
That's all you need. Ethan. Should I call you Queen Ethan? I forget.
Just call me Pao. My name is...
Right.
Yeah. Ethan Allen, aka Pao. Residing right now at Edmonton, my home.
Yay, welcome to Calgary.
You. I have a question. What's your favorite subject? Social studies.
Really?
Yeah. Then right now I'm just waiting for my finals for English 30-2. Because I'm upgrading, and then probably I'll take business.
Cool, 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 cool. Who's EG? Hello, Egg.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Actually, I'm brother. My brother is actually Pao. Kuya Pao. We're
Oh,
brothers.
this guy.
Yeah, I'm currently enrolled in NATE right now
Oh,
in here in
amazing.
college. So I'll be starting in September. So yeah, my favorite subject would be math as well.
Wow, hello. Meet Jody. I guess my turn. Hello, I'm Carmela, Ella, or Atilala, whatever you want to call me, or Hey Girl. Hey Girl. And I am not in school. I just graduated last year, actually, last April at Mount Royal in business management and supply chain. Yeah. And my favorite subject was not math because I failed accounting like twice. Well, I failed it once, and then there was another second accounting class, which I failed. So I had to redo accounting like so many times. So I really know that I hate math. My favorite? Psychology. Nothing to do with business at all. But yeah, my favorite was psychology and sociology and just like dealing with people and relationships. Yeah. Weird, right? Oh, I thought I saw the rocks. Dang it. Okay, now that we all know each other and that we're all students or aspiring students or just want to be a student of something, which I encourage y'all to always be a student of something. When I was asked to think of a breakout session topic, everybody was like, oh, so you're Ella, you're the worship coordinator. You're probably going to do something on worship, right? Or like do something on music and stuff. But then thinking about like the different generations and like a church and like the different scopes or different lives outside of church, there was people that are married. So there's one for that. People that, what else is there? Yeah, mental health, and there was one for women, and then there was one for like missions and doing all that stuff. And then I thought, oh, welcome, Raf. I'll ask you later. I'm on a roll. I thought about like us students, like have students ever been addressed in like a context like this and like workers ministry and all that stuff? And I know, at least for Win Calgary, I'm not sure about Edmonton and what the generation of workers are like in your guys' church, but a majority of us are like in school, like junior high, high school, college, university, and then maybe even like some adults that are going back to school. So not even just like younger people, but like students in general. And with that being said, welcome, Raf. Oh, good time. We were just doing introductions. So Raf and Gabe Tan, your name, your area of study, or like what school you're in, and then your favorite subject. Let's go, Raf.
Okay. Hello. What's good? My name is Raf, and I go to State for Civil Engineering Technologies.
Wow.
And my favorite subject in that semester, we got to build a house for one of our subjects. So that's definitely my favorite subject.
Like a literal house?
Yeah, we had to build a 2-story house.
Like build?
Yeah,
Or,
like
computer
from the ground up. No, we had like they gave us blueprints. They gave us
Animal
blueprints.
Crossing.
Wait. They gave us blueprints from an architecture student, and we actually got to build his project and build his house. So that was super cool.
Wow. That was your first year?
Yeah, that was last
Hey,
semester.
that must be fulfilling.
It was. It was awesome.
Great. Okay, there's a baby in the room, in the Zoom room. Hello, Gabriel 10.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Who are you? What are you studying? Where are you? And then your favorite subject.
All right. Well, my name is Gabriel Tan. I am currently in my room. I
Calgary.
totally forgot that this was this time, but I am currently studying in Kelowna for audio and in a program called audio engineering and production. And kind of just like what I do, basically anything music theory. We're in the studio, we're editing music, learning how to edit music, learning how to set up properly for both live and in the studio kind of thing. Music for film, music for TV, music for radio, anything where you consume sound kind of thing. That's what we're learning. Yeah.
Cool. Did you say your favorite subject already, or was that all of
Oh,
the
favorite subjects? Nothing from high school. What I'm learning now is like my favorite subject. So
Awesome. I think Lilia is Raf's mom, Tita Lilia. Just checking up on Raf, I guess. Anak,
Yeah,
you're student,
she
go to
turned the
that
wrong
one,
one.
huh? Okay. So going back to like my heart for this topic, and even though I'm like not a student anymore, I think there's something powerful in like speaking from a testimony. But then also at the same time, I was thinking like, is this testimony like finished? Is this like the next chapter in my life? Like, am I not a student anymore? Or is this something that like just because I graduated already, like is this something that I can teach from because it's like one and done? And I was asking the Lord, I'm like, is this something that I can, like impart wisdom and stuff because I'm like a past student and I'm like an elder in like the school life. And it's like a yes and no. Yes, as in like, yeah, that season of my life is done and I'm no longer a student. And there are definitely some things that I learned in school, the hard way, the easy way, and in God's way, in all the ways. And then also no at the same time, because like I said earlier, I feel like the Lord is always calling me or calling all of us to be a student of something and just always learning, always learning. So, with my testimony, is it okay if I like share a little bit of what I went through as a student and like balancing and like, was there even a balance of what I went through? Okay, so hello, my name is Carmela, and like I said, I did university for like 6-7 years, I think. Yeah. Huh? I could have been a doctor, but I just ended up with a 4-year degree. So after high school, okay, actually, no. Let's track back to junior high. We're going way back. Junior high me. Hello, meet Carmela. Huh? Hello, meet Carmela from junior high. Little preteen girl who is just trying to figure out her place in the world, finding her meaning in life. What is life? What is purpose? Why am I in school? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And all these questions just kept spiraling and spiraling. And I don't know if you guys had typical Asian parents, but not that they burdened me or like really pushed me to, you know, always be an A student, or like, why'd you get an 89? Like, what happened to the 90? Or like, they weren't like that. But they were always encouraging me to do well. And fun fact, I am super type A. I am a type 1 Enneagram. And if you guys don't know what that is, basically I'm just like always do well, goal setting, checklists, and everything has to be perfect kind of thing. So even in junior high, even though I had all these questions of like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Or like, why am I in school? Why do I have to know what X equals? Like, what the heck? and then at the same time, my parents were like, from my experience, constantly encouraging me to always do well, to always show them my report cards, to just always instilling the idea that having a good future means getting that good grade. And I'm like, okay, so for me to have a good future, I need to have good grades. So from junior high up to high school, I was always like, you know, super diligent with my work, did homework, did it on time, but was never the kid in class that was like, teacher, you need to sign homework today. No. But I tried, basically. I really tried. And then those questions from junior high never left when I was in high school. And high school, of course, was the time where you needed to know what classes you were going to take, even in grade 10, so that they were prerequisites for like what you took for grade 11 and then for grade 12, and then that determining like what you wanted to do after high school, and like the classes that you took in high school mattered for what you wanted to do for the rest of your life. So in high school, I was like, do I want to do physics, chemistry, bio? Am I going to be a doctor? Am I going to be an engineer? Like, should I take all the sciences just in case? So I did it. I took all of the sciences just in case. I took all the sciences, and then after the first day of physics, I'm like, nope, I'm out. I could not do physics. Oh my gosh, I could not do physics. Okay, and then I stuck it out with some classes like calculus, math, like I stuck it out. And as you know, because I'm not good at math, like I really know I'm not good at math, I started to, you know, downslope from having like good grades. And then like I remember like my first really failed bad grade was like the start of like, why am I doing like what I'm doing and all that stuff. And then I got caught up in the thoughts of like, why? And then I spiraled down to having no motivation because I couldn't answer the why. And I became really, really depressed because I had no set vision for what I wanted to do after high school. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I didn't know where the classes I was taking at that moment was taking me in the future. And because I was failing, I wasn't all failing at all the classes, but I had some failures in there that I took and categorized myself as a failure. And because of that, I was like, screw life. And I became really, really depressed to the point where I was like, I want to die. And long story short, I was suicidal. I was really dark. I was like in the darkest. Thinking about my life up until this point, that was probably like the darkest season of my life, where I just had like no glimpse of hope. I was deaf and numb to encouragement, and I was deaf and numb to like even coming to church and seeing all of the Holy Spirit things happen. I was just like, because I was just so numb in the heart, and like I was founding my life in a depression because of my state as a student, and then letting that really identify who I was, which then identified the way that I was living. And then being depressed, it started to show, especially at home, because who you are at home is like the most realist and raw version of yourself that you can be. And I'm glad that my family cares about me. And my dad was the first one to notice, or maybe it was my mom, but my mom was like, you know, go talk to her because you're the dad, you're head of the household. And my dad was like, well, she's not depressed. I don't know. But my dad was the first person that talked to me. He like knocked in my room and he told me to go out for a drive. And then I remembered feeling really bad because I had hidden like a whole bunch of knives in my drawers and stuff. And I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, they probably found it when they probably found it when they were doing laundry and like putting laundry away for me or whatever. But I remember going out with him, like feeling super bitter, scared, and also just really numb, like whatever he's gonna say, I don't care. And then we went on a drive, and then we sat on like this park bench overlooking like overlooking a view, and there was the sunset right there. Oh, it was beautiful. And even though it was beautiful and me thinking that it was beautiful, I'm like, what's gonna happen? And then like the little words that he spoke, like this is the only thing that I remember him saying. He said, Anak, I know that you're in school and that our family is like a Jesus loving family and all that stuff, but I just want you to know that I am so proud of you in like whatever that you're doing and that I love you just the way that you are. And at that moment, like something like broke off, like it was as if the words that he spoke like peeled off layers and like unraveled my identity. And because I had identified myself as a student and a failing student at that, that was the way that I was living. I was living as a failure and like living like as if my life had amounted up to nothing. But then his words saying that I'm so proud of you and I love you just the way that you are, like it just like broke off that lie. And that was like the first probably he spoke that over me like when I was like 5, 10, I don't know, but that was like when it really hit me that I am loved by my family, not because I was an A student, but because I'm theirs, but because I am their daughter. And then that was when like it hit me like, this is how my earthly father feels about me. Like what more than my heavenly father that sees me and wants to see me as his daughter. And in high school, fun fact, I was pretty involved in church. I don't know if you guys were around, but I was in the praise and worship ministry, and in high school, I went to a Christian high school, so I was involved in like the chapel band, and I was like leading worship. But then I was leading worship just like karaoke style, just like singing the songs and, you know, kind of like playing the part. So I always knew of Jesus. I knew how to act like I loved Jesus so bad. And I knew what it looked like to worship Jesus. And so that's what I did. But then that moment at the park bench when my dad told me that I was his daughter, that I was loved, and that he identified me as his, like that was when I felt my Abba Father, like he was saying, I love you because you're my daughter and you have a good future, not because you're good, but because he is good. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember from that moment on, that was like when I took my Jesus journey like seriously, because if you think about it, if you start doing all the things without knowing who you are, then like why are you doing all the things? Like, is it because you have to do all these things, or is it because you're coming with a deep knowing that you're doing these things because that is what he's calling you to be? And then if you think about the character of God himself, like you see him doing good things, you see him showing mercy, you see him loving on the broken, you see him loving on the rich. But do you think he does all these things and gives all these things because he can, or because he is? And I'm like, ugh. So going back to student life and ministry and like my journey from that moment up until university, because man, it wasn't like a snap of a change, but it was like a process of like really understanding my identity, and then also taking that identity into a process of like also sanctifying myself and him sanctifying me in everything that I did, also including school activity and university. So today for this session, I just really want to, like if there's one thing that you have to take away from this session, is that you are not just a student, or you are just not a church worker, or you are just not insert title here, but what do you think you are? Bruno said he is Bruno. But yeah, I'll save that for later actually. That's like my next point. But with all that being said, like I want us to leave with a foundation of knowing who we are, and then getting to do all these things because we know who we are. And then also taking some practical points like stress management and like, what else? Stress management and like how to balance your title and who you are and like what you're called to do. Cool? Cool. Okay. So the main purpose of this teaching is to highlight, wait for it, the normalcy of stress, and then taking that stress and strategizing and figuring out ways on how to balance who you are foundationally and also your assignment. So I want to open the table. Unmute yourselves, please. On who do you think you are, and what are you doing right now that you think makes you who you are? Does that make sense? Will it help if I go first, if I answer that question? Okay, so who am I right now? In this season, I am the worship coordinator for the church. So what I'm doing with who I am, or with that title, is that I coordinate worship activities for the church. Aside from being a worship coordinator, I am also a daughter of my parents. So what I'm doing right now to be that is honoring them and doing what I'm told and doing errands for them. And I'm also a sister to my sisters. So hanging out with them and like doing all that girl talk and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll just leave it there. So what are the titles that you carry right now, and what are some of the things that make you that title? Jody! She made a face.
She looked at me. Am I echoing?
Yeah. Or no.
Hello?
I don't even know.
I'll just mute myself.
Okay. I am a child of God.
Or let's rephrase the question. Like, what are your titles right now, and what are the things that you are doing to fill that title?
Okay. So it's like the same. I'm a daughter of my parents, and what I'm trying to do is spend a lot of time with them, taking my time just to hang out, as well as with my siblings. I am a sibling. I'm a sister to my brother, my sister, and how I fulfill that title is be playing basketball with my bro, and not just basketball, and playing video games with them. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's it, I think.
You're a student, you go to school,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you do homework.
Well, I'm not in school currently because it's summer.
Fair,
That's
fair,
the end.
Let's go, Kuya Pao.
Hi, I'm a brother of my two brothers. Um, and I play guitar in worship team. Ano pa ba? What makes me, ano ba yan? What makes me who I am?
The things that you do that fill your title.
Okay. Right now I read books a lot because I want to be a lawyer someday. So that's
Ooh.
so that's it. Thank you.
Great, great. Raf.
Hold on. I'm in my living room. There's people here. Okay, I am here. Who am I?
Or your title. What are the titles that you carry right now?
Titles. I am a brother to three of my siblings. I'm a student at State. Youth in our church. I play
Raf,
music.
you're breaking up with me.
I'm being the teacher. Oh,
He's looking. Oh no. How do I? Oops. Raf. Oh, breaking. I can't type on this computer.
There we go. Oh, wait, no. Wait.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you, Raf. Rafael Aguila, brother of two brothers and student of Nate. Sate, right. Nate is Edmonton.
Brother of Nate.
Let's go Kuya Egg.
Okay, so okay, I'm a brother of my two brothers, which is the other brothers there. Um, I am a son of my mom and my dad, and what I do to fulfill is I help them, like I cook for them. So that's one. And I am a student at church because we have like a Bible study, like it's like a BS.
Good one.
Yeah, we do it every other Tuesday. We actually have one this coming Tuesday. So, and yeah, I think that's about it. And I'm also a student of NAPE, so
It
Yeah.
exists, you guys.
not NAPE.
Kyla.
I am also a sister. I'm a sister to my younger brother. We have a huge age gap, so I guess I'm also like a second mom. Just trying to make sure that he's on the right path and just, evolves into a decent human. I'm also a daughter of my parents as well as the Lord. And so I'm trying my best to make sure that all of their sacrifices that, immigrating to Canada and starting a new life, for their kids, I want to make sure all of their sacrifices are justified, I guess, in the sense, or fulfilled. I don't know, like, what's a good word for it. But I am also unemployed and I'm looking for a job and I am trying to find a job, so I am doing something about it. And I think that's it.
Oh yeah, I'm also employed. Good one.
Unemployed.
Oh, just kidding.
I'm
Mr. Jealousy.
I'm unemployed. But yeah, that's who I am.
Cool. Or what you are.
What I am, yeah, what I am.
Bruno. Bruno to.
Hello. Hello.
Ano ito?
It's my feet. These are my toes. I am a son and a brother. I'm a boyfriend. It's the best. It's so good. Thank you, Lord. It's a miracle. Wow. I was a missionary. Now I'm off assignment, and because now I am the youth and missions coordinator in this church.
Yeah! Everyone congratulate Bruno. This is super new. Yay!
Oh, and I'm going to be a student.
Yay. It's a fun life.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Mute yourself. Johanna!
Hi everyone. My name is Shahana. Okay, wait, sorry, let me take off this background. Okay, I am a student. I'm a university student, hopefully soon to be a nurse. Currently unemployed, but I was a Starbucks barista. So I know how to make all the drinks, and now that I no longer have my discount, it's too expensive for me. So that's the sad part about it. And currently looking for, hi Tito. It's okay. Currently applying around or just like chilling between jobs, applying to work as like a healthcare aide. I am a daughter. I have like, I'm a daughter of like 3 parents. I have like a dad, and then I have a mom, and then I have a stepdad. And I say that I'm gonna have like, I'm gonna have 4 dads one day. I'm gonna have a dad, stepdad, dad-in-law, and God is my dad.
Oh, that dad life.
Yeah, and I'm a sister. My older sister is 22. She just came back this week, and
Love is in the air.
Yeah, so I have a sister. She's back, and we're like chilling before she has to go to school again. I am the head director for young adults in this church. Bruno is the supervisor. He's a supervisor.
Your boss.
He's my boss. He's the elder. I also am a team leader for one of our worship teams here, core member. And I'm single. Not ready to mingle.
No, bro.
And,
I'm so sorry, babe.
and
For all of you guys,
He's in the Zoom call, dude.
welcome to the inside. Shahana and Gabriel Tan.
Technically true.
technically true.
Just
So-
kidding. Sorry, exposer.
Oh, that's good. And I think that's it. I think that's all my titles. Screenshot?
Amazing. Gabriel Tan.
Of course, I'm after her.
How's your heart?
Okay, so my titles, I think, first and like in order, these are actually because like recently, having stepped out of ministry, this is kind of like I only have two main titles, but these are very much high in priority for me, being a son and a brother in my family, an older brother to my little brother and a son to my two parents. Really focusing in what that really means, kind of thing. Especially being a student at college in another province. Trying to like manage that, like what does being a son and a brother look like from a distance, kind of thing, when you can't be close. And also a student in college, kind of thing. And not only is it just any college, it's a creative college kind of thing. And so not only being a student there, but doing my best to be a light and a Christian in that community, kind of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But those two are very much in high regard, as well as a friend and best friend to a couple of my friends. I know that I put my friends on a high pedestal sometimes, and they always deliver. So I try to do right on my end with that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks, Gabe Tan. I think everyone went, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. The reason why I ask what your titles are and why I rephrase the question from like, who do you think you are? I asked what you guys are and the titles that you carry, and also like the things that you do and like your lifestyle based on the titles that you carry. And I ask this because being in ministry, I totally understand that not everybody here has ministry in like full-time hands. We have like different hats, we have different titles, and like there are parts to our lives where we kind of live and fit for that title. So like when you're not in church and you're in school, majority of your time is like doing all the homework, and doing student stuff. And when you're not in school and you're in church, you're like trying to go to all the conferences, making all the practices, and just doing church things. And then aside from school and being a church worker, or if you want to be a church worker, that's what it's like. also living at home, being a child of somebody, being a sibling to somebody. And then outside from the home, there's like your social life and being a friend to someone and like being a best friend. And then you think about all these titles, and I wonder if you guys actually do think about all these titles, and you think about the way that you're living your lives and like see how, like, what if you were to put them in boxes of percentages of like your daily life, like what are you the most according to your title? So in my university life, for me, the largest percentage was surprisingly not being a student, and that I really prioritized being like a part of my family first, which was weird to think about because I'm like, okay, so I'm a university student, so I have to like think about doing studying most of the time. And there were seasons where that was what I did, but then there was also like maybe second or third year where I had to really prioritize family. So that meant I had to work a lot more at my family franchised OPA, insert shameless plug, down at Aviation Boulevard, McKnight Road. Don't mistake it for McKnight OPA because they are subpar. Just kidding. And like thinking about your titles, and then when you sit down and you sit in contemplation, you're like, oh my gosh, I am all these things. And there are a lot of things that I do to fit all those things. And then you're like, can I do all these things? Can I do all these things well? Can I, can I not be all those things? Do I have to be all those things? And then blah, blah, blah. And then you get caught up with feeling like maybe I am too much of these things. But I want to take us to 3 points, 3 practical points in thinking about all of the titles that we're in, especially being a student and being also in ministry, being a church worker. And like, how can you find balance between all of the titles that you carry and all the titles that you have? So my first point is to assess yourself, which we did just now. So like, yeah, check yourself, assess yourself, which we did just now. Like, what are the titles that I carry and what are some of the things that I do in my life that fit to the title? And the second is when you start thinking about all the titles and all the things that you do, I don't know about y'all, but I get super stressed thinking about all the things that I have to do to be all the things that I have to be. So the second point is to assess your stress. Bars, y'all. Okay. And then with all these titles, like, how did you even get them in the first place? So the third point is to assess your yes.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Bars. Okay. So the first point, assess yourself. And I won't get too much into the into this point because that's exactly what we did just now. Thinking about all the titles that you carry and all the things that you do to, like, you know, fit those titles. But like, I want to draw from my testimony a little bit here and really question, like, are the things that you do, like the way that you're living your life, is that a molding of how you're living your life to fit a title, or is it living from a deep understanding and an overflow in knowing not what you are, but who you are. So in knowing who you are, that was like the first question that I asked, and I liked how Jody is like, well, I'm a child of God. Yeah! And that's why I'm like, oh wait, no, let's save that for later. So knowing who you are and looking at this Zoom room, I know that y'all are all women of God and mans of God, and that we are all child of God. So this first point is to not really think about first all of the titles that you hold, but think about the one that is holding you instead. So if it's okay, can I go on an identity roulette of Bible verses really quick? Okay, so who are you really? What is God saying about you? Romans 8:28. Anybody know it?
All things work for the benefit of those who love him.
And who have been called according to his purpose. So we have been called according to his purpose. So we are a children that is called to good purpose. Good purpose, y'all. Not failing purposes. John 15:16. You did not choose me, but I chose you. This is, oh my gosh. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whenever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. So it's not that we chose all these titles, but it's that he called us and that he chose us. And when he chooses us, that he does not set us up for failure, but he sets us up to bloom into fruition. Come on. Okay, Jeremiah 1:5. Do you guys want me to type these verses out in the chat, or you're fine? Okay, Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So before we were even in our moms, he knew us and he created us with good purpose. And he created us with a mind of living a good life and being a prophet and just like being people of the word and the word that he's spoken. John 15:15. I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Oh, think about that, being a church worker. Like, do you often find yourself thinking that you're just a servant? Well, Jesus is saying, heck nah, you are not just a servant, but I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. So you guys, we are just not church workers, but we have been called friends and to do all these things in relationship. So this last one, Colossians 3:1-4. Since then, you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above and not on earthly things, not on earthly titles, not on earthly lifestyles and day in, day out routines, but to set your hearts on things above where Jesus is, because you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Do you guys know who you are? Oh, yes. Bruno just said, do you guys know whose you are? WHOSE. Right? I just finished school. Oh. So in assessing yourself, assess who you are and whose you are before what you are and what are the things that you're doing. Did you guys catch that?
We'll wait for that. I'll wait for that.
Okay. So now that you know, do you know, have a deep understanding of like who you are? And then after that, once that's like the building block and the foundation of like how you're going to live your life, then you can think about the titles that he is calling you to be and the assignments and the little mini callings, I guess. I'm just gonna say assignments and titles that that you are set to do for this season. And season as in like maybe a month or like 90 years, who knows. But now that you have that foundation and you think about all the titles that you're doing and you come to a place of like, oh my gosh, there are so many things that I have to do now. Now you can assess the stress that comes with all of that. And I don't know about you guys, but when I start thinking about all the things that I have to do, my go-to fix is to not do those things. Oh my gosh. Like, I remember in university, like all of the papers that were due, all of the group meetings, and then just like a whole bunch of things that I just needed to do. I'm like, I just like blank out, and the way that I dealt with my stress was that I just pushed it aside, put it in my backpack, threw my backpack outside the house, and I'm like, I'm just gonna take a nap, you know, for a really long time, and then wake up, eat, watch Netflix, and then take another nap, and then, oh my gosh, and then like the night before, that's when I would do all the work, and oh my gosh. Okay, so with that being said, stress will come. Stress and stressors are inescapable. They will come because, you know, Jesus never promised an easy life. In John 16:33, he said, in this world, you will have trouble. What an encouraging way to to tell someone and then like peace out. In this world you will have trouble. And then he says, but take heart. So Jesus knew that of course we will have trouble. Of course there will be stress and stressors that place this stress on us. But I feel like in this generation, or just like what I've been observing, that stress has been labeled as something that you need to get away from and something that you need to kind of escape, something that you need to extinguish and like cut off, and like stress is bad. But I want to just highlight first of all, the normalcy, the stress is in our lives, but then also there is good stress and bad stress. And even though I didn't finish with a science degree, correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Nurse Shahana, but the hormones that get released in your body and the chemistry of your body when you get stressed and when you get excited and driven to do something are exactly the same. Is that right?
Yes.
It is. I think I heard that from like a TED talk, not a textbook. But like biologically, what gets released in our body is the same kinds of molecular chemistry, hormonal thing when you get stressed, and also when you're excited to do something or when you're driven to do something. So, good stress, also known as eustress, EUSTRESS. And this is a type of stress when we feel excited, when we feel driven to do something, a pusher and a drive to, and it's like a motivation to be able to accomplish something. It's like, what's a good example? Just like winning an icebreaker, winning a Kahoots game. Like your heart starts beating and yeah, you get stressed to win, like because you want to win so bad, like you want that e-transfer of like how much, who knows. But that is what we call eustress, like a good stress that pushes you to do something. And then there is acute and chronic stress, basically the exact opposite of good stress. And this is a stress that comes with threat and a stress that's accompanied with a fear of something. Okay, so now that we know like there are different types of stress, and that stress can be good and that stress can also be bad, and that stress is the same exact molecular feeling as excitement. And knowing that stress and stressors are inescapable, I want to encourage you guys, or not encourage, for you guys to contemplate on how you react on the things that stress you out. In my experience in university with like all of my to-do list, I took that as like acute or chronic stress or like bad stress. And because there was threat and there was fear of like, there's so much things to do and I won't do it well. And I responded with not doing it at all. But if I were to take that stress and kind of have like a perspective change on it, and like having a different mindset of like all my to-do list, like, okay, so why do I have to do my paper? Because I want to graduate. Because I just want to do well, and I just want to get out of school, honestly, and the only way I can get out of school is to do well. Or you could drop out. But let's not. Well, actually, I have different opinions on dropping out, but that's like, you know, a different topic. So like having a perspective change on your stressors, because if stress and motivation is like the exact same feelings in your body, then the way that you choose to respond to all these things is such a game changer. So assess your stress, and then you get to choose on how you respond to it. And then also with this trend of feeling like you need to get rid of your stress, don't use stress as an excuse for complacency, or like as an excuse to fail. Like, oh, I was just so stressed. I am all these things. I had to do all these things. So I wasn't able to come to practice on time. Or I wasn't able to write that 10-page paper. I only wrote 8 because I ran out of time because I was so stressed. But I want to encourage you guys to take that stress, have that perspective change, turn it into good stress to motivate you to do something, and cast out fear in having love for what you do, and also just really pushing yourself to accept failure, really. And you are allowed to fail, you guys. You are allowed to fail. And just because you fail sometimes, like my multiple tries in accounting, does not make you a failure. Because look, I finished with not an accounting degree, but a business degree that took accounting classes. So if failure is a fear, then to overcome a fear, I really believe that you need to get over it and onto the other side. And to be on the other side of failure is to actually go through failure and not avoiding it. Because if you look at it in my little hand diagram, this is you, this is where you want to be, and this is failure. Like if you go over it and you go through it, it's like so much quicker than if you go around it. Like taking a detour and like trying to escape all these things just to get to the other side. So like if failure is right here and where you want to be is right here, then just go through it. Just send it. So don't avoid failure, but embrace it. And if you fail, fail up.
Fail up.
Fail up. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. So even in accepting failure, do it well. Fail well. And don't think about failure as in like, oh man, now I have to like, restart and do all these things. But take your failure, take it with you, not like with a burden, but with your mind, and just, strategize on how to not fail again. And if you do, just get back up. Fail well and fail up. Cool. 10 minutes. Perfect. I'm on my last point. Okay. The last point is assess yo yes. So this point is kind of linked to my first point, where you had to assess yourself and all of the titles that you carry and all of the titles that you hold. So how did you even get there? Like, how did you have all those titles in the first place? Was it because it was given to you, or was it because you said yes to all these things? So in assessing your yes, first couple of questions that come to mind are, how did you get there? Why do you have it? Did you say yes? And how did you say yes to those things in the first place? Was it, oh, I'm in the praise and worship ministry because they needed a pianist and I played piano, so I said yes. And then with being a child, did I say yes to that? or was that given to me? Or was that given to me like as a gift? Like, I am a child. So think back to assessing yourself. What have you said yes to right now? And then kind of the next step after thinking about all these things and questioning all these things is to start weighing them in the importance of your life. And by weighing them, I mean prioritizing your yes, and then weighing out and identify your biggest yes, and then listing it down from like top to bottom. So the way that I did that in university, and I said that the biggest title that I held was not a university student despite having that title, was because my biggest yes was something that was gifted to me, and that was being a daughter and being a sister and being a family member in the family that I was placed in. And not everybody has this value, and I know that your biggest yeses and all the things that you said yes to is custom, and like it's your yes, it's not mine. So I chose to really save that as my biggest yes, despite being a university student. So I really prioritized my family, and that meant giving up some hours in the day of writing papers so that I could work a couple shifts at my family's restaurant. And to the rest of the world, that didn't make sense. Like, you're a university student, you're paying like how many thousands of dollars to get an education, but instead of choosing to actually, you know, like invest in your investment, you're choosing like to work at some silly restaurant. I'm like, no, it's not just working at some silly restaurant. It's loving my family first before doing the things that, like, before being a student. Like, I know that my biggest yes was to love my family. And so make a list to know your biggest yes. If this is something that you question, like, what do I know what my biggest yes is? Like, I think they're all the same. Like, they're all important. I love them all. And I do all of them in a God glorifying way. Which you should. But this is coming to mind. It's not in my notes, but I think of the parable of the talents, how some were given 2, some were given 3, some were given 5, some were given 10. And your list is going to look different than other people's list. And your weighing scale of your yeses is going to look different than other people's weighing scales of their yes. So to make your list, and because this is so custom to you, try to think and try to follow your tiers. Does that make sense? To follow your tiers, like really do a heart check. Like, what are some of the things that will absolutely break your heart if you fail at that something? For me,
excuse me.
Yeah.
I know when you close, just tell them there's a 10-minute break.
Okay.
And then they can sign on again, or we go FB Live.
Okay, sure.
For the last session.
Okay. Gotcha. So like doing a heart check on like what are some of the things that absolutely will break my heart if I do or don't do XYZ. And for me, if I saw my family struggling to find people to work at a restaurant, I knew that that would, you know, break my heart in comparison to missing out on a couple hours in studying for a test, which I know I can talk to my professor and have like a rescheduling. Like, I know that I was able to do that. And then also following your tiers, also follow Jesus's tiers for you. Like, what are some of the things that you know will hurt Jesus's heart the most when you think about him thinking about you, thinking about the things that he's calling you to do right now. So if he's calling you to absolutely honor your parents, and you know that your parents want you to do well in school, are you going to choose to honor that? And if you don't honor that, do you think that this will break your heart? This is not a trick question or like a manipulative question, if it sounds like it. But do you think that it would break your heart? Do you think that it would break Jesus's, that's such a hard word for me to say, Jesus's heart. So a couple of my examples in creating my list was, one, if it cost me my well-being, so being tired, heavy laden, discouraged, blind of sight to who I was and what my identity was. Like if it cost me that, I have to draw the line there. If it cost me the way that I loved my family, and this was a big thing for me because this was the first identity I had on this earth. I was born a daughter first before I was born a worship leader. Ooh. I was a child first, so that is something that I hold dear to my heart. If it cost me the good plans that the Lord is leading me into. So the ability, for me, this was the ability to do well in school. Like I knew, well, at that time, I knew that school was such a value because it kind of was a direction on what possibly my future could look like. And you guys can have different opinions on that, and that is fine. And then my last one was if it cost me my assignment. So if it cost me the assignment that the Lord was calling me as a body part in the church. So like being a worship worker, like if it cost me not being able to come to practice on time or not practicing before practice, then I had to change something up. And with all of these in mind and like prioritizing your yeses, there are going to be some things that you will have to say no to be able to cater and to be able to serve your biggest yes. So saying no is not something that you should feel terrible about, but you should take it as a perspective of saving your biggest yes when you say no to different opportunities that come. And that's when boundaries come in with like saying no. Creating boundaries, healthy boundaries that protect your biggest and heaviest yes. So I know that this class is titled Balancing Student Life and all that stuff, but it's not a balance on like they have to be weighed the same, but a balance on like serving your biggest yes and also balancing like your well-being, like, and where you are when it comes to all these things. Like if you think about a fence, like the purpose of a fence is not to keep things out, but to protect what's inside. So in creating boundaries, you have to think about not saying no to all these things that come, but protecting what you have said yes to already. Oh my gosh, I have to close. So in closing, in closing with all of the things that you're doing right now and all the things that you're called to do in the next right now, and all the things that he's leading you into for the next 90 years, I don't know. Like the purpose and the goal is not balance in all of your assignments, but balance in the way that he's called you, and then taking that and living a lifestyle of knowing who you are and just really, I'm like losing my train of thought. So knowing who you are and then balancing that with the things that you are being called to do. So the 3 things is to assess yourself, know who you are first, then what you are, assess your stress and how you are responding to your stress is a big one, and to also assess your yes. So how can you say no to save and protect the things that he's calling you into and the things that he's calling you to say yes to? That's all she wrote.